Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson, here to celebrate everything you need to ace chemistry and one big fat notebook. Before we invite our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM into the studio, we want to let you know that, before your kid can ace chemistry with a big fat notebook, they need inspiration. They really do. This holiday season, we want to encourage you to give the gift that's going to inspire a love of reading and exploration and learning in the kids that you love. What gift am I talking about? I am talking about Wonder Crate. With Wonder Crate, kids get a fun-filled package in the mail each month that contains a new book and activities to introduce them to real people that use their courage, perseverance, and passion to make the world a better place. Your kids can read about Sally Ride, the first American woman to fly into space, and then make their own glow-in-the-dark constellations. Your kids can also read about Frank Lloyd Wright, and then they'll have a chance to build their own architectural masterpiece. Wonder Crate introduces kids to new innovators, activists, and artists every single month because who your kid sees shows your kids who they can be. You can order today. Ordering is so easy. All you need to do is to go to WonderCrateKids.com. You can do it now. You can pause this, go to WonderCrateKids.com, use the code word READ, and that way you can save 10% off of any subscription. Now, saving 10% is absolutely fantastic, but winning Wonder Crate for yourself, that's even better. So if you're listening to this podcast when we publish it in November of 2020, be sure to check out our social media feeds. It's Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter, and Facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids. There you can enter the contest to win your very own Wonder Crate. And entering is really easy. It's just like liking and sharing the post. Check it out today. Go to our social media feeds and look for our Wonder Crate posts. And remember, go to WonderCrateKids.com, use the code word READ, and save 10% off of any subscription. Joining us right now from beautiful Jacksonville in Florida. She is a regular guest here on the Reading with Your Kids podcast. She is the Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, and she's here to celebrate her brand new book, Everything You Need to Ace Chemistry in One Big Fat Notebook. Please welcome to the show, Jennifer Swanson. Jennifer, how are you?
I am doing great. I am thrilled to be on the Reading with Your Kids show again, to talk about science. Yay!
Yes. Science is so cool. Jennifer has been such a great supporter of our efforts to highlight STEM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics when we're here on the podcast. It's such one of the things I love about our conversations about STEM and STEAM is that it just lends themselves to families doing stuff together.
Oh, well, absolutely, because science, STEM, and STEAM is all better when it's in action. When you get outside, when you do things, science is all around you. My book about chemistry have you ever cooked something?
I have.
Then you've done chemistry, basically.
I'm glad you say that, because chemistry is one of those things that just frightens me. I never got it. When I was in high school and the first day of chemistry class, the teacher did the thing. We put the gas and then and it blows up. Everybody thought that was really cool. I thought, I'm going to kill myself doing that. And I never wanted to do any of that stuff.
You are not alone. A lot of people, when they hear chemistry, they kind of cringe and their eyes go wide and they're like, no, not that. But really, you do chemistry every single day in your life. Anytime you are mixing things together, like if you're making yourself a sports drink and it's a powder and you have to add water to it to stir it up, that's chemistry, because you have to measure how much, like say you take 1 scoop out, or maybe you're making chocolate milk, right? Use the powder, and then you have to decide how much milk or how much water do I add into this. And you have to get the mixture just right. That is all chemistry.
So I have to ask this question. It's gonna sound dumb, but that's what I do on the Solve It for Kids
There's
podcast.
no dumb questions.
Okay, well, good. So, if that's chemistry, and that seems like really friendly, that's like user friendly. I can relate to that. So yes. Why don't they explain that to us when we start learning about chemistry? Why do so many teachers make it seem like it's this crazy, complicated, unreachable thing?
Well, okay, that sort of depends on the teachers, because some teachers will be able to do that. But part of that is also the textbooks that you're using. The textbooks, you have to learn. It's like everything else. Like cars, if you look at cars, they're really cool. But then you have to learn all the different parts of them, right? So then you have to learn what the motor does and all these different things. It's the same thing with chemistry. You have to understand how atoms work and how liquids move and all this kind of stuff. So, because it's scary, that's why Workman Publishing asked me to write this book, Everything You Need to Ace Chemistry in One Big Fat Notebook. And it's set up to be kind of an addition to your textbook. It doesn't replace your textbook, but it's cool because it's almost, there are lots of images and fun squigglies in there. There's problems. It's almost like graphic novel-ish. And it does this kind of thing. Like it says, hey, did you just cook something? That's chemistry. You're not going to find that in a textbook, but you'll find it in something like this, which is set up to be a little more fun and easier for kids to understand.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes back to my original question. Why do we have to write textbooks in such a unuser-friendly way?
Well, that's not just chemistry. That's all textbooks.
I know.
They can be written in very interesting ways. I agree with you. I think for me, and I mean, you know, we've had this conversation before, science for me is all about relating it to a kid or to someone that's like 9, 10 years old. That's what I'm best at. I mean, think about some of the topics that we've discussed on our Solve It for Kids podcast. I mean, particle physics? Mm-hmm. Holy cow. Stuff you can't even see. But that's so much better when you can relate it to something people can understand, wrap their hands around. And yes, if you keep saying it's just cooking, because when you're in the lab and you're doing that experiment you were talking about, you're basically just cooking, right? Mm-hmm. You're adding things, you're adding this reagent to this reagent, and then boom, something explodes. Well, you don't always do explosions. Maybe you just change a color, right? Or you have heat come off, but maybe not an explosion. But yeah, you think about it that way, and that makes everyone more comfortable. Everyone more comfortable.
Well, and it kind of, being a magician, I am all, very familiar with this idea of secret knowledge, and that's what magic is all about, because we go and we find this knowledge, and then hopefully we present it in a way that's responsible and entertaining instead of exploitive. But I never understood why, it seems like there's a lot of people, not only in science, but in different fields, where it's like, okay, I have this secret knowledge, and I'm going to talk about it in a way that no one understands, so it makes me look special.
Well, that is probably true of many different areas, yes, not just science. And I think part of that is when you get to be an adult, you kind of talk at that level because you've been educated and you know all of your different things. And also the language. When you work in these particular fields, there's a certain language that you understand. But it is difficult for people to sometimes translate that down. And I think that's what's really important when you're teaching kids and you're getting them excited, is get them something that they can grab onto and that's interesting. So like in my book, we break it apart into all these different things, and there's little experiments. You know, for example, when I'm talking about an experiment, yes, you have to learn all the terms of it. You have to learn the observe, construct, plan, predict. What is a variable? But then we give you this really cool image of two fish in a fishbowl, and one you're feeding a certain food and one you're feeding a different food. And then you get to see what happens. Now that's kind of chemistry, and that's an experiment, and that's something kids can get, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you're sitting down writing this book, how do you start? I mean, like, so what? So you're looking and you got a blank computer screen, and the folks at Workman said, "Jennifer, we want you to write this big fat chemistry notebook." What do you do?
Well, first thing that you do is, because they wanted this to kind of go along with the textbook, I have to look up all the NGSS standards. So the next generation science standards. So it has the topics in it that a kid would learn when they take chemistry class. You usually take chemistry class maybe sophomore year in high school. Mm-hmm. So yes, you have to use all the things. You have to get all of the terms in. But as I said, it's the way you present it. So instead of like you said, it will be like, okay, we're going to use this reagent and mix with this reagent and it will have a color. We might say, hey, we're going to take water and mix it with oil and see what we get. And then there will be observations. So what one of my talents is taking stuff that's really complex and bringing it down to a kid level so that they'll understand, because you want them to get excited about it, right? Mm-hmm. And how do they get excited about it if you're using language that's over their head?
Yeah. Well, that's one. I can attest to the fact that Jennifer is really good at that, because, like, I might as well be in third grade when it comes to a lot of these STEM things, and she's really helped me be able to speak to these amazing scientists on the Solve It for Kids podcast. So, yeah, Jennifer is number one at this.
Well, and part of the reason why I can do that, is because I imagine myself being like 9 or 10. So for me, I mean, I'm still way older than that, and my curiosity is through the roof. But I imagine kids at that age having all of these questions, because I know I did. So when I approach a topic like this, I think, okay, so if I just go straight on, what would I want to know if I were a kid? Like, why? Why, if I mix these two things together, why does it get cold? Why does it get hot? Why does it change colors? And so as I'm writing, I put that into the book and explain it. Or I'll do it off on the side, like my Astronaut Aquanaut book, which we've talked about before. I asked astronauts, I think we interviewed Katie Coleman. We were like, how do you sleep? Mm-hmm. Right? In space. And I mean, that's something I want to know, but it's also something a 9 or 10-year-old or 11, 12-year-old kid would want to know. So that's what I try to do when I write my books. Think like a kid.
Yeah. I'm wondering, what is it, we talk a lot to authors and we ask them to, do they ever imagine, that hundreds, thousands of families are going to be snuggled up on the couch reading the author's picture book together, and how does that make them feel? I'm wondering, as this book is coming out, do you ever think to yourself that there's probably going to be like thousands of kids who are going to pass chemistry thanks to your book?
Well, that would be my dream, because let me just tell you this. I wish I had this book when I took chemistry. I was a chemistry major at the Naval Academy, and that was not easy. To me, that's humbling and also amazing. This book has only been out, I think a month. It came out in early September, and already I have over 100 5-star reviews on Amazon, and I'm just floored. I think that is fantastic. And if kids find my book, or adults find my book helpful, then for me, then I've done my job. I think that's amazing. It makes me very, very happy.
Yeah. And, that might be something a use for the book that you and the folks at Workman probably didn't think about. There may be like these whiz kid chemistry students out there who like get it. They're just like genius level chemistry, and their parents might want to sit down and have a conversation with them about what's going on at school. So you can get everything you need to ace chemistry in one big fat notebook for the parents, so they can sit down and kind of understand what their kids are talking about.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny because my husband works at a medical device company, and so they have actual chemists. Like, this is their job. They go into the lab and they do all this kind of stuff. And he took the book in, and they were like, "Oh, this is really cool. I love this. I'm going to have to buy it." And my daughter was like, why would they want to buy this? Like, they do this for a living. And it's just because it's, in the Big Fat Notebook series, the way Workman set it up, it's presented, all of these topics are presented in really fun, exciting, interesting ways. And so the Big Fat Notebook series actually started as a middle grade series. There's like 5 or 6 middle grade books, and this series has gone gangbusters. They've sold tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of copies. So if you have kids that are in the middle school, there is a Big Fat Science notebook that is more for middle school kids. There's also like a math book and a history book and all this kind of stuff. So my chemistry book is the first of 2 that are high school level. But it still has the same fun and enjoyment, because why should you not get to read a fun book even if you're in high school?
Why should you not? I mean, why would you ever force a kid to read anything but... That's one of the things. It just blows me away. As I'm, we can't do it now, but I was going out to big events like the Orange County Children's Book Festival and the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, and I would meet older siblings at these events. And I would just pull them off to the side and say, I remember having this one conversation with this young woman who is probably a sophomore in high school. And I said, what do you like to read? And she said, I hate reading. I don't read. I do TikTok. And I just happened to, there was a fun graphic book there at my table. And I said, hey, read this to your little brother and sister. And it was one of these books with this big word that was really hard to pronounce and just fun and goofy and everything. And she had a blast, and she just lit up. And, with some kids, reading, science, all this stuff just comes naturally to them. And that's great. But, there are kids that sports just comes naturally to them, and that's wonderful. But that's not most kids. And I think that the whole idea of school, it shouldn't be about competition. It should be about being competent, helping kids become competent and understand the world. And if the way to do that is through fun, then why haven't more people picked up on that? It just baffles my mind.
I agree wholeheartedly with you. And the thing is, especially about science, because I think some adults and kids, when they hear science, even just the word science, not even specifically chemistry, they get nervous. Like, oh no. So I encourage you, if you are that, or if you have a child who's like that, take a look at more, what we call expository books. So more books like that have lots of different things going on in them. That's pretty much what I write. I know we've talked about my Beastly Bionics book here too. So they're little bits of information instead of a big long narrative book about the whole subject that a kid may like halfway through go, oh my gosh. Give them find the science books that have little bits of information spread throughout them. Kind of like when I was a kid, the big selling book was the Guinness Book of World Records, right? Mm-hmm. Because it was, and now, that's kind of like Jeopardy, like little bits of trivia. But that's a great way to get your kids interested in science. Have them do little bits of trivia or little bits of things. Look for those books. National Geographic Kids is perfect for that. And bring them in that way. Just like you did with the graphic novels are awesome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more nonfiction graphic novels too, not just science, but there's also history, and many other kinds that, I don't think there's any one right way to learn. Yeah. Pick whatever works for you.
Well, the neat thing is that there's a lot of science behind what you just said. There is a lot of science that the best way to learn, a really effective way to learn, is in chunks.
Yep.
And so you learn, sit down for 20 minutes, try to get that chunk in that 20 minutes, and then take a break, and then move on to the next thing. Instead of, like you said, instead of trying to dive into the deep end, go chunk by chunk by chunk by chunk, and that's a way to kind of build, the same way we build buildings.
Yes, and this is engineering, which you also know is my other favorite topic.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I'm wondering, Jen, you have this really interesting career. You're a naval officer, and, we really appreciate you serving. How did you get into writing kids' books?
Well, I started writing when I was 5. I was that kid who, for show and tell every week, wrote a little story and drew a picture, stick figures. So I was that kid, and most of my pictures were about my dog. My dog went outside today. The end, right?
Oh,
and the next week it was my dog played with another dog. The end. So I've written my whole life. It wasn't until about, 12 years ago, I finally put my love of science together with writing. And for me, it just, I don't know, my whole world opened up, and this is for your kids out there. Don't think that you have to know when you're 17 or 21 or whatever, what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Because, there are a lot of us. I figured out when I was, 40 that I wanted to be a children's author, and then you just change your career path. But when I finally put science and writing together, it all clicked. And my passion for science I was able to put into my books, and I hope, I imagine, hopefully that kids will read these books and get just as excited about science as I am.
Yeah. And if you read everything you need to ace chemistry in one big fat notebook, and you don't decide I want to be a scientist and you just ace chemistry, that's good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Because that'll help you get an A or a solid B and move on to something else. I hope you find this book fun. I think it was actually really challenging for me to write because I graduated from college a long time ago. So, and interestingly enough, chemistry has changed somewhat how they write the formulas and all kinds of stuff. But there's a lot of great tips in there that hopefully you can use part of it to help you in your class and make it easier to learn and memorize stuff.
That's excellent. Hey, Jennifer, before we ask you to remind everybody where they can go to find out more about your books and also find out about our great Solve It for Kids podcast, I gotta ask, everybody's real sensitive. Has anybody come up to you and complained about you fat shaming the book? That's that.
So the big fat notebooks. That was not my title. That is the series title from Workman Publishing. And I think it's mostly because if you look at the book, it is a really big notebook. But it's written like a kid would write it. So it's supposed to be by, the kid who loves chemistry and kind of doodles and makes notes in their side margin. So that's where they came up with the idea.
That's really cool. All right, so tell everybody where they can find out more about all the great books that you have written.
So you can find me on my website, jenniferswansonbooks.com. I have all of my books there. There's also some activities that you can do I have free teacher activities you can download. I have information about doing school visits, which are now mostly virtual. But I hope, like you, to get back out there and visit schools because it's best when we're there working with the kids in person, isn't it?
Absolutely. And remind everybody about our podcast and where they can find out more about that.
Well, Jed and I have an amazing podcast called Solve It for Kids where we interview scientists and engineers and experts, and they talk about their problems that they solve in their work every day. You can find us on solveitforkids.com. And we've also just started doing teacher packs on Teachers Pay Teachers, so you can use our podcast in your classroom. So check us out there at Solve It for Kids on Teachers Pay Teachers.
Yeah, and those teacher packs are really great for homeschooling parents too, right?
They are fabulous. Yeah, they can be used for kids of pretty much all ages, and your kid will start learning how to solve problems on their own, which would be great, right?
Absolutely. Hey, we've had a great time speaking to the author of Everything You Need to Ace Chemistry and One Big Fat Notebook, our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. Jennifer, thanks so much for being back on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Jed.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Marion Hannah Carson. She'll be here to celebrate the adventures of Plymouth Plantation as told by the Mayflower Mouse. It's a great, great conversation. You don't want to miss it. You also do not want to miss the great Wonder Crate giveaway that's happening on our social media feeds. Now, our social media feeds is at Jedley Magic on Twitter, Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, and Facebook.com/ReadingWithYourKids. Participate in our Wonder Crate giveaway and win your very own Wonder Crate for a kid that you love. And also, please be sure to go to WonderCrateKids.com. Use the code word READ to save 10% off of any subscription. Hey, it's time to thank the folks who made today's show so very wonderful. Of course, we want to give a big thank you to our Dean of all things STEM and STEAM, Jennifer Swanson. I want to thank our amazing sponsor for today's episode, Wonder Crate, WonderCrateKids.com. I want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Peggy Cotto. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. But most of all, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much for exploring with your kids, for cooking with your kids, exercising with your kids, and of course, reading with your kids. You are making the world a better place. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.